The life of homeless people in Ukraine is a reality impossible to imagine without fully understanding the deep suffering and drama surrounding them every single day. The streets of cities become not just a place to stay, but an arena of survival where each new day is a challenge of unimaginable intensity and constant uncertainty. The lack of a roof over their heads is not only a physical deficiency but also daily exposure to freezing winters, scorching summers, and unpredictable weather, which mercilessly tests their strength and endurance. In such conditions, every breath is paid for with tremendous effort, and searching for even the slightest shelter from the elements becomes the most important goal, often bordering on a miracle. Homeless people are forced to sleep on hard, cold concrete surfaces or under thin layers of cardboard meant to protect them from dampness and cold, though in reality, these are only illusory shelters. Their clothes are often soaked with dirt and smells that do not go away even after many days, and the lack of basic hygiene access causes their bodies to become breeding grounds for diseases and infections developing at an alarming rate. In an environment with no stability or safety, every step can lead to encounters with violence or theft, which increases their feelings of helplessness and fear that constantly accompany their existence. Despite all these hardships, homeless people in Ukraine continually try to find even a shred of dignity and hope, although reality often brutally takes away that hope, leaving only emptiness and despair. Living in constant danger and permanent tension makes these people live on the edge of physical and mental endurance, balancing between survival and total collapse. Around them hovers an atmosphere of constant threat, where trusting others is a luxury nobody can afford, and loneliness becomes an inseparable companion of their harsh fate. The places they choose to sleep often become targets of attacks by more aggressive groups, and the fight for territory and survival unfolds in the shadow of society's apathy and indifference, which ignores this tragedy. The streetlights and the city's hustle seem to overlook their presence, and disappearing into the crowd is the only form of protection against even greater dangers lurking at every corner. Their stories often remain unheard, and their daily lives are a continuous struggle for basic necessities that most consider obvious and natural. Among ruins and abandoned buildings, they find fragments of space that may become a refuge for a moment, but it is only an illusion because any moment can bring a brutal eviction or forced relocation. Finding food, clean water, and a warm place to rest is a true challenge that demands creativity and determination, often bordering on desperation. Sometimes they manage to get a piece of bread or a warm meal thanks to help from random people, but such support is rare and never guaranteed, which worsens their hopeless situation. Homeless people must rely on chance and luck, which are unpredictable and unstable, and their lives resemble an endless obstacle course where any barrier could be the last one. Surviving on the streets of Ukraine is a daily battle requiring great resilience but also keeps the flame of hope alive, although reality seems to extinguish that hope at every turn. In cities where chaos and poverty intertwine, homeless people become invisible to most residents, deepening their alienation and isolation from the rest of the world. The lack of a permanent residence means they have no access to medical care, resulting in disease development and health deterioration without proper treatment. Skin diseases, respiratory infections, and numerous chronic conditions are everyday burdens silently endured because the fight for life leaves no room for complaints or grievances. Many of these people are elderly or struggle with serious mental health issues that further complicate their functioning and seeking help. Instead of support, they often meet hostility and aggression from parts of society that perceive them only through stereotypes and prejudices, forgetting about their human dimension. Some homeless people try to find temporary stability in shelters or aid organizations, but the number of places is insufficient, and the conditions often fall far short of ideal, discouraging many from using such help. Life on the street is a daily fight not only with physical hunger and cold but also with a deep sense of rejection and hopelessness that often leads to complete alienation and resignation. Despite these difficulties, some homeless people show extraordinary strength of spirit and adaptability, allowing them to survive in the harshest conditions, though at a huge and often irreversible cost. Against the backdrop of ruined buildings and neglected urban spaces, their existence appears as a silent cry for help that remains unheard by most of society and authorities. The lack of effective systemic actions and insufficient support for homeless people causes their situation to become increasingly dramatic and hard to control every year. The everyday life of homeless people in Ukraine is a picture of brutal reality where dreams of a normal life are crushed by harsh street conditions and the cruelty of fate, which spares no suffering. In such conditions, even the smallest act of kindness becomes a ray of hope and a chance for a moment's respite from the constant suffering surrounding them relentlessly and mercilessly. The continuation of this story reveals further layers of suffering and struggle, where the homeless person becomes the daily hero in Ukraine's streets, where reality blends with nightmare and constant threat. Their everyday choices are a non-stop fight for survival in a world that often rejects and treats them with indifference, leaving them at the mercy of a cruel and unpredictable fate. The lack of basic necessities forces them to search for food in places taboo for most people, and getting food becomes an activity full of risk and fear of aggression or poisoning. The constant need for protection against cold or rain forces creativity and inventiveness in building shelters from materials found in trash, old tarps, or pieces of wood meant to provide at least minimal comfort. At night, when the city falls asleep, the streets become a scene where homeless people fight for space and safety, and silence is often broken by screams or sounds of violence, which are everyday occurrences. Their loneliness intensifies the sense of danger because even among other homeless people there is often a lack of solidarity, and the fight for survival overshadows human bonds and empathy. Many suffer from chronic exhaustion, a result of constant stress, hunger, and lack of sleep, which reflects on their physical and mental health, yet every new day forces them to get up and act. In such harsh conditions, some try to find meaning in small rituals or moments of peace that allow temporary escape from the dark reality. Despite huge obstacles that seem to destroy them, homeless people in Ukraine show surprising resilience and adaptability, often at the expense of their health and dignity. Their life is a constant battle with a system that cannot or will not provide decent conditions and with people who ignore or despise their presence. Lack of access to basic medical services means many illnesses remain untreated, and their health deteriorates daily, leading to serious complications and premature death. Survival in such conditions requires extraordinary endurance, and any moment of carelessness can cost them life or health, forcing them to live in a permanent state of alert and tension. Social isolation and lack of support make homeless people invisible to the world, and their voices and needs are marginalized and forgotten, deepening their tragedy and loneliness. Still, among these people, moments of solidarity and mutual help appear, which, although fleeting, provide a spark of hope and remind us of the humanity not entirely lost. Their stories are tales of struggle, suffering, and perseverance that should move consciences and inspire reflection on the fate of those forgotten by society. Instead of looking away, the world must look at these people and start noticing their needs, which are as important as anyone else's because everyone deserves dignity and a chance for a better life. Homelessness in Ukraine is a problem requiring immediate and effective actions to alleviate the suffering of those who fight daily on the streets for survival and dignity. In such a dramatic situation, every form of help and support can become a ray of hope that changes the lives of people for whom everyday life is a constant battle for survival. It must be remembered that behind every homeless person stands a human being whose story and fate should not remain indifferent to any of us.